Once we have studied the different elements and characteristics of the primary sector in the world, we are going to learn more aspects related to the primary sector in Europe and in Spain. We cannot explain the agriculture and the primary sector in Europe if we don't explain the CAP, or the Common Agrarian Policy. The Common Agrarian Policy is one policy that looks for the coordination and cooperation in agricultural issues among the European countries that are members of the European Union. One European policy to coordinate the agrarian sectors among the members of the European Union. This CAP has 9 goals or objectives that I will explain you after. And one of these objectives is the regionalization of the crops in Europe. That all the areas in Europe were specialized in different types of crops. According to this specialization of crops, depending on the European area, we can divide Europe in 3 agricultural or primary areas. First of all, the oceanic area, composed by the countries close to the Atlantic Ocean: France, England, Ireland, or the north of Spain. This area is characterized by intensive livestock farming, overall related to the cattle, and agriculture related to fodder. The fodder is the type of crops that are dedicated to feed the animals. In the continental area, in the interior of Europe, we can find very important the importance of silviculture, or the raw materials obtained in the forest, and the cultivations of different types of cereals. Finally, the third area is the Mediterranean area. We are going to find crops related to the Mediterranean triad, for example, olives, wine trees, and different types of cereals, and intensive irrigated agriculture. For example, this type of agriculture is very important in the south of Italy and in the southeast of Spain, such as fruit trees, tomatoes, peppers, strawberries, or vegetables. In this picture, you can find the importance of this type of Mediterranean agriculture for Europe. The majority of products or agricultural products that you can find in the supermarkets in France, in UK, or in Belgium come from, as you can see in the picture, come from Spain. For that reason, Spain is considered the garden of Europe. These are the 9 goals promoted by the CAP. The first one is increase the competitiveness between the agricultural producers in Europe to compete with other agricultural areas in the world, for example, the South of Asia or the Latin American countries. Carry out one type of agriculture related to the sustainable development. For that reason, there are 2 objectives related to this: the climate change action and the environmental care, and the preserve of landscapes and biodiversity too. Another objective of the CAP is protect food and health quality in the different agricultural and livestock farming products. Increase the economic importance of the rural areas in Europe to avoid, for example, the depopulation of these areas, and encourage the support and the generational renewable. One of the problems of the agricultural sector in Europe is the high levels of elderly workers in this economic activity. So these goals are the 9 goals more important to be achieved in the future in the agricultural sector in Europe. Another characteristic of the CAP is the regionalization according to the crops. One regionalization that we talked before. In this map, you can see the most important agricultural or primary products depending on the country. For example, in the Iberian Peninsula, in Spain and in Portugal, we are going to find that the vegetables are very important. The peppers in Spain and the tomatoes in Portugal. The wine plays an important role in the French economy, and the cattle is essential to understand the primary sector in UK. In other areas, for example in the east of Europe, The chocolates and the sweet products are more important in Poland and in Czech Republic, and the cereals are essential to understand the primary sector in countries such as Ukraine, Romania, or Bulgaria. So in general terms, this map shows us the main primary products in Europe. As in the agriculture and in the livestock farming, the European Union has one fishing policy, whose name is the Common Fishing Policy or CFP. Is policy one European policy to coordinate the fishing sector among the countries of European Union. In comparison to the CAP, the main goals of this CFP are the following. The first one is solve the problem of overfishing in the European fishing grounds. Our fishing grounds are overexploited, so for that reason one way is encouraging the establishing of quotas and the aquaculture. Supply a safe, varied and quality fish. Encourage the aquaculture and maintain the unemployment and the population rents in fishing regions because in comparison to the agricultural sector, the elderly people is working in this sector too. So is one sector very aging. What are the most important fishing countries in Europe? First of all, the first one is Denmark. That supposes the 70% of catch in the European fishing. Then, in the second position, Spain, after UK, and in the fourth position, France. To carry out these goals related to the fishing activity, the European Union used European funds to improve and to finance the CFP. In the period between 2014 and 2020, the European funds related to the fishing activity were 6,400 millions of euros. In relation to the consumption of fish, the most consumed fish in Europe is the tuna, then the cod, and finally the salmon, are the three most consumed type of fish in Europe. In Europe, there is an average that all the persons consume in 1 year 23.1 kilos of fish. And in relation to this economic activity, this map shows us the main European fishing grounds. In green appeared highlighted all the countries that carry out fishing activities in the European fishing grounds. And surrounded in irregular cycles appear the main European fishing grounds. For example, the Azores fishing ground, the Canary Island fishing ground, and the North Sea fishing ground. Finally, we are going to explain the primary sector in Spain. First of all, I'm going to show you the main characteristics of this economic sector in Spain. This economic sector employed the 4% of active population in the agriculture, livestock farming and fishing, and suppose the 10% of GDP of Spain. In the agriculture, the main agricultural products or crops are going to be cereals, legumes, vine, olive trees, vegetables, and fruits. On the other hand, the industrial and fodder crops, crops to feed the animals, has increased the importance in recent years. The livestock farming is very important, for example, in the north of Spain, in this order of importance. First of all, the cattle livestock farming, then the sheep, pig, and poultry. Finally, the silviculture is probably the economic activity less important in the primary sector of Spain, but there are some type of trees very important for this sector. For example, the beech, the oak, the chestnut, the pines, and eucalyptus. In this slide, you can watch one map of Europe, of Spain, about the different climates that you can find in Spain. The climate and agriculture are related, both aspects are related, because you need, for example, determinate levels of rainfall to cultivate one type of crop, on dry land crop or garden crop. In Spain, as you can see in the map, predominate the Mediterranean climate. Only in the north of Spain you can find oceanic climate. The main difference between two climates are the levels of rainfall. The oceanic climate is more wet than the Mediterranean climate. So for that reason, we are going to find many different types of crops depending on the area of Spain. This map shows us the main crops in Spain. As you can see, we can divide the agricultural areas of Spain in three. The first one, the north of Spain, characterized by crops that needs a lot of water. For example, the corn and the apples. Then we are going to find another agricultural area, the center of Spain, or the inner plateau, where we are going to find the typical products related to the Mediterranean triangle, the vine, the cereals, and the olive. But on the other hand, we are going to find some crops related to industrial purposes, such as the sunflower, or the importance of almond and forage for fodder. Then there is another area, the Mediterranean area from Cadiz to Gerona, where we are going to find fruit trees, vegetables, and citruses. Finally, there is another exceptional area in the Canary Islands where the most important characteristic is the cultivation of tropical fruits, such as banana or mango. In this map, you can watch the composition and distribution of livestock farming in Spain. In comparison to the previous map, we can establish some important livestock farming in Spain. As you can see in this map, probably the most important livestock farming area in Spain is Catalonia and Aragon, where we can highlight the importance of the pig livestock farming and the poultry livestock farming. Whereas in the north of Spain, Galicia or Asturias, the cattle livestock farming plays an important role in the economy. In the rest of Spain, the pig is very important too, but not only the pig. We are going to find other types of livestock farming, such as horse livestock farming, rabbits livestock farming, and sheep and goat. In relation to the two previous maps, I would like to show you this map that is one curiosity. It's one map of propaganda that shows or depicts the different areas of Spain according to the most important agricultural and livestock farming products in Spain. For example, we can see the ham in Salamanca and Extremadura, the wines in Catalonia, in the south of Castilla-La Mancha or in La Rioja, and the importance of the cattle and cheese in Galicia and Asturias. In this slide, you can see the agrarian spaces in Spain. One table summary to explain the main characteristics of the different agrarian spaces in Spain. I'm going to explain you all this information using the following slides, because I consider that with images it's easier to understand the different agrarian landscapes that we can find in our country. First of all, the inland Mediterranean agrarian landscape. We can locate this agrarian area in the inner plateau, in the inner Andalusia and Extremadura. The population in these rural areas is characterized by the location of agrarian cities. The agrarian cities are big villages with more than 10,000 inhabitants where we can find that the agrarian activities are the most important economic activities in this big village. We can find this type of villages in the south of Castilla-La Mancha or in provinces such as Granada or Córdoba. The plots of farming land are characterized by the use of open fields and for the big size of this plot of land. On the other hand, in these areas we are going to find characteristics type of crops. For example, they irrigate the industrial crops like the sunflowers or for example the vine trees, one typical crop of the Mediterranean triad. In the livestock farming, the pigs in the dehesas and the sheep's livestock farming play an important role in the economy of these rural areas. In relation to the silviculture, this area is deforested, so for that reason it is not very important this economic activity. Oceanic agrarian landscape. This landscape is located in the north and in the northeast of the Iberian Peninsula. In relation to the population, we are going to find these villages in dispersed situation that I explained at the beginning of this unit. In relation to the plots of farming land, is divided in small plots of land and with a small size, as you can see here if you compare with the Mediterranean open. In the agriculture plays an important role the garden crops such as vegetables and potatoes and the fodder to feed the important numbers of cattle that you can find in this area. In the silviculture, it's very important if you watch the photo because the forests are important in this area. We can find forests of pines and forests of eucalyptus, whose main purpose is the production of paper for the industry and furniture. Coastal Mediterranean agrarian landscape. Located in the coastal areas of the Iberian Peninsula from Cadiz to Gerona, and in the Ebro and Guadalquivir valleys, and in the Balearic Islands. The population in this area is divided between dispersed villages and concentrated villages, modified for the touristical activities, because the touristical activities in the Mediterranean coast plays an important role in the economy. In relation to the plot of farming lands, are divided in a small size plot of lands, very technified, with different agricultural advances such as artificial irrigation or use of chemical fertilizers. The agricultural production of these areas is based on the irrigated vegetables and tree fruits such as citruses, oranges and lemons, and the market garden crops. The market garden crops are vegetables that whose main purpose is to be sold abroad in the European market overall. The livestock farming is important for the poultry, livestock farming and the pig farming. And the silviculture is not very important in this area. The use of greenhouses are essential to understand how you can achieve garden crops that need a lot of water in the driest area of the Iberian Peninsula. So for that reason, this type of agriculture is very technified. The last type of landscape or agrarian landscape that we can find in Spain is the Canarian agrarian landscape. Located in the Canary Islands, the population is very similar to the Mediterranean coastal area, is dispersed, and the farming or the agricultural lands are divided in small agricultural lands in the interior of the islands and one technified agriculture based on the production of tropical fruits in the coastal area of the Canary Islands. The livestock farming and the silviculture are economic activities that are not very important in this type of landscape. The last primary activity that I'm going to explain in this unit is the fishing activity in Spain. Fishing activity in Spain is characterized by the following aspects. First of all, the good geographical position of the Iberian Peninsula, with an extensive coastline. But the problem of this location is that our coastal areas are not crossed by cold marine currents. Because in the cold marine currents, if you remember first of all, were the areas where we can find more plankton, that is the food of the fish, and the lack of fishing grounds close to the Iberian Peninsula, or important fishing grounds. The sea fishing has played an important historical role, but nowadays has declined in its importance. The main fishing regions nowadays are Galicia and Andalusia. In Galicia is characterized by the fishing of tuna with one old Muslim technique whose name is almadraba. To understand and to watch one video about almadraba, click on this link. The aquaculture in Galicia has increased its importance in the recent years for the mussel industry in Galicia and the gillhead brand and sea bass in the Mediterranean Sea. All these products that you can find here in this image related to the aquaculture. In this slide, you can see the main type of fishes caught by the Spanish fishermen, such as cephalopods, turbots, anchovy, swordfish, tuna, or hake, and the main fishing grounds where you can find this type of fishes and where the Spanish fishermen obtain these products. Overall, in the west of Africa, in the Central Atlantic, in the Indian Ocean, close to the countries such as Mozambique or Somalia, and in the north of the Atlantic Ocean, are the main Spanish fishing grounds where the Spanish fishermen catch the fishes. Finally, and again, I'm going to repeat the three types of fishing activities that we can find nowadays, with example to understand better these types. The first one is the international fishing, where the fishermen spend 3 or 6 months on the oceans and is carried out in long distance. That is the typical fishing activity that we are going to find in the center of Atlantic Ocean or in the Indian Ocean carried out by the Spanish fishermen. The European fishing close to European countries in a medium distance and in several days. And finally, the traditional fishing, close to the Iberian Peninsula coastline with all boats and a few sailors. That is considered they catch the fishes in the national fishing grounds. Before finish the unit, in the following slides, you can find some useful vocabulary to understand better this unit. In the agriculture, the name of the most important crops that you can find in Spain, the Mediterranean triad, cereals, vines, olive trees, fruits and vegetables, legumes, industrial crops such as cotton or sunflowers or animal fodder, with the different images related to this. In the livestock farming, the cattle, livestock farming, the sheep, livestock farming, the poultry, livestock farming, and the pig, livestock farming, and the main purposes of every type of this type of animals. Finally, the silviculture, where you can find some images about the most important trees cultivated in the Iberian Peninsula, the beech, the oak, the chestnut, the pine, and the eucalyptus. That's all, my dear students.